Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is Saturday, Sci-Fi Saturday. We finally made it to Saturday. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. I hope you made it through the week. If you didn't make it through the week, you're not here, so it doesn't matter. Hello, everybody. I've got special guest host, Miss Leighann Lord is joining me today. Hi, Leighann.
Hi, Chris. Good to be back.
Yes, I love having you. You're a fan favorite for sure. And we've got Randolf Richardson. Good morning, Randolph, from the Canadian Atheists. Right? Did I say that right? I did.
Yes, right. Canadian Atheist. Thank you very much for having me on here.
Yes, and good morning, Jared. Jared the Goblin King from the AT2 channel. How you doing this morning? Hello? Did we lose Jared?
Come on, Yeti, unmute.
Oh, there he is. There he is. I thought,
Good morning, everyone.
Is he testing us?
Oh, no. Habit of mine during intros, I like to be considerate, and I use the hardware mute feature on the microphone. And lately, it's been wanting to be slow to react to the unmute press of the button.
Well, that's awful considerate, actually. I because other people aren't. I actually have it to where I mute you all when I'm doing my intro. They can't hear you because reasons. But thank you for that. Yeah.
A bit of microphone discipline when and where possible is a good thing to do for people. If only more people out there actually understood that, especially when they're in an environment with higher than normal background noise.
Yeah.
Which
I think things will be much better once we get Star Trek communicators. We can all just yell at the ceilings.
Well, you know, that's the thing. We could do that now if we wanted to, Ben.
You know, there are people who have the devices out there that tie in. I mean, they do have the Bluetooth version, which not exactly the same, though.
No.
But it's getting there.
No.
It's getting there.
Getting there.
Yes. So we have just a brief introduction. We have got some sci-fi nerds on the show. I am a sci-fi nerd. Oh, wait. I even for today, I wore my sci-fi shirt. I know. I'm in love. It's a wonderful shirt. The wife got it for me. I have 3 or 4 more shirts coming just so I can do sci-fi nerding with you guys. Leighann is a sci-fi nerd. She's frozen again. It's like a sci-fi episode where we're all really moving fast, but they're moving really slow. That's kind of what it looks like. But you can see her little Star Trek. She's a Star Trek nerd. Jared even does this channel. I'm going to let him talk about it here in just a second because this is his first time on the show. He does. You're not all frozen, are you? Oh, okay. Am I alone? Hello? Sing on. Jared has got this Canar with Damar show that he does, and he talks about some Star Trek kind of stuff. So we'll let him talk about it in just a minute. So we've got some sci-fi nerds. I really don't know Randolph, you're a Star Trekkie. You're a Trekkie.
I like Star Trek. I like the Orville. I like Star Wars as well.
Okay.
Star Wars I like more for the action, and the Star Trek I like more for the philosophy, and the Orville I like for the philosophy. It's a bit rushed, but it's great. But as far as stuff goes, I've got a bit of clout here because my kids got for my birthday back in February, first edition Star Trek comic book, which I am not going to open.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
So this is great to have. So, and then we also have not opened this yet. We've got bought this a little while ago, and now that we have some time, we're planning to open Dungeons and Dragons and start learning it. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons before, but my kids apparently think I'd be good at being a dungeon master. So I guess that's going to be a steeper learning curve for me.
Yeah. We do dungeons. As a matter of fact, as soon as this show is over, I'll shut off this stream, start another stream for a group of people, One Ring and some others who will play Dungeons and Dragons live on the show.
I've seen bits and pieces of that, and
Yes.
I've been recommending people on Twitter tune into your show. So I hope that that's been bringing a bigger audience for you somewhat.
Yeah, well, One Ring does a really good job of the being a dungeon master. So if you're wanting to learn what it's like to be a dungeon master, he does a great job. Although I have to say, for a game, it's a lot of work. I don't play. I just produce. I just run the shows, and I watch these people play, and they've all got these character sheets they had to build, and they have to know all this stuff. And Like the dungeon master, he has to get all this stuff ready before the show. So if you're going to have like lizard men or some kind of creatures pop out at your adventures along the way, you got to have all that stuff set up beforehand every week. It sure seems like a lot of work, but it's really cool to watch. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's rather interesting. I think Leanne is having audio issues now.
Hi, Leanne. Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Leanne. Can you hear me, Leanne?
You can't hear.
You can't hear. Maybe a reboot of the browser is not me. I didn't do it. Nobody saw me do it.
Fix it. Okay.
Have you considered praying over it?
I'm going to refresh.
Refreshing is always good. I need to actually get my thing open here. I don't have my
the power of prayers.
Yeah.
Well, wait.
I'm immune to the power of prayer because I'm an atheist. You got the memo, right?
Yeah.
No, because keep in mind, it's not the typical God that I'm referring to in that. We need to get a hold of a tech priest and pray to the machine god to get it to work for.
Blessed prayer over it, Jedi mind trick.
And don't you think a goddess might be better in some cases, or in a lot of cases?
Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, and by the way, the people who may have missed that was a Warhammer 40K reference.
I miss that.
I completely missed it.
Okay, yeah, I'm having a hard time. Not people. Oh no. All right, so I just want to say hi. I forgot to say hi to everybody in the chat. We got distracted. I'm going to run on, and we'll hopefully get Miss Leanne in here, and we'll figure out whatever's going on with her. Hello, best name ever, Justin the empathetic atheist. Good morning, atheist Mo. Has Brainbug shown up? I did see Jen's little corner. She's going to bed. Good night, Jen. See you later. Have a great night. Wooly Ignorant is here. Good morning, Wooly. And Dave. The Critical Cripple is here this morning. So we got a lot of folks here this morning.
I know a lot of those people.
I know, right? Uri Bench is here. He's from Israel. Wonderful, wonderful people. Good morning. And David Worley is here. Nerd.
Hey, DRP. That's
Y'all
fantastic.
I remember that nerd. That's from Revenge of the Nerds, I believe. Anyway, so good morning, everybody. Nice to have you. Leanne is joining us, but she's having some technical difficulties. Now, I've actually worked with Leanne a couple times. Her internet is actually fast enough to bear the stream. She does pretty good, but something's happening. Somebody's getting on the internet. Her router needs to be rebooted. Her computer needs to be rebooted. Something. The machine gods are angry with Leanne. There she is again.
It's probably just that she needs a wired connection because people on wireless are unfortunate victims of neighbors running microwave ovens to cook their food.
Oh yeah, there could be that, and that is her case. Her router is too far away for that, so we are unfortunately dependent upon for now. But
yeah, unfortunately, I'm hoping to date a techie guy who will fix it for me.
Ask for a wired connection. If you can get a wired connection, all your connection problems will likely be solved at that point.
Yeah. Well,
we talked about that. She's just the wired part is way far away from. It's complicated. Yeah. Anyway, Star Trek. Good morning, sci-fi nerds. Leanne, you've been on the show a couple times. We have Star Trek quite a few times. This is Jared's first time on the show, and he actually runs. He has a YouTube channel, and he has a series of videos called Kanar with Damar. Now you're going through DS9.
Tanagra.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
At Tanagra.
Right.
He's got the reference.
Yeah, I know.
That's not a DS9 reference. That's a Next Generation reference.
I know.
You're right.
Yeah, but the name of the show was because actually the genesis behind the name was actually really interesting. So, Kanar with Damar is my every other Saturday show that I do with three of my friends who, two of them are fellow veterans of the U.S. military. The fourth one is a long time friend of mine that lives out in Germany. And so it started out as pretty much a gathering across the globe of friends just getting together to talk about some subject in initially the Star Trek universe and related in that way. And the genesis for the name dates back even further where my friend Alex asks, as a joke, what would a late night Star Trek specific television show be called? And the one that came up was that he had in mind that it came up with was Kanar with Damar. And it was a direct reference from a line that I actually used as the intro video for it from DS9 when the station was under the Dominion occupation. And Quark got drunk with Damar to find out some of the lowdown of what was going on before Operation Return took place.
You know, that's we kind of gotta do something. Be careful here, only because Miss Leighann has not yet seen the 7th season of DS9. She's worked her way through. She's watched DS9.
It's okay.
Yeah, no, we don't want to spoil it though. There's things we don't want to spoil for you.
It is. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's a soap opera. It's fine.
Yeah. So I
feel like the stage has been occupied.
I'm so sorry. It's unfortunate.
Oh, okay. Hopefully she'll repeat that. I want to hear what she has to say.
And we do. It'd be nice to be able to figure out some kind of solution. Maybe she's there again.
I'm here again.
Oh, there you go.
There we are. Okay. You were saying.
No, I feel like the station, I didn't necessarily think he was referring to something in season 7 because they've left the station. The station's been occupied at least once or twice.
Yeah.
During the course of the season, those damn Cardassians.
No, that's true.
Yeah. By the end of season 6, Operation Return is already taking place.
That's true.
Right.
Absolutely. Yes. I just wanted to inform them because, you know, there's some things that happen in season 7 she doesn't know about that I just want to rail on. I just want to be like, damn it, I hate that they did this. It's bad. It's less than good. If good is over here, then it would be like less than good. It would be over here. And I'm not happy that they did that. That's what, but I can't do that because she hasn't seen it yet. I don't want to spoil it for her. Having a rough time. So,
you know, it would have been interesting to see Gandalf and friends on the Starship Enterprise. It's, but maybe I shouldn't start all that mess, should I?
Yeah, I didn't get that. Gandalf and friends. I mean, that's kind of a thing. I don't.
You know, from Lord of the Rings.
No, yeah, I get it. I just don't. I don't understand.
A lot of people like to do the fanfic style crossovers. Which actually they're after we went off air for my weekly veterans panel show last night, we saw a connection of Saint Elsewhere to quite possibly every television show that has been on air.
That would have made it for a great episode.
Oh, we're going to be getting into that on our next one because there was a meme that came across as the that is now the inspiration for the next topic that we're covering next Saturday, which is it shows a picture of 4 different characters that were played by the same actors in Cheers and Star Trek. So you got Kirstie Alley.
I saw that.
And going down the list. And so the headcanon is that Cheers is actually a holodeck program.
Yeah.
You know, I thought Kirstie Alley did great acting as a Vulcan. She nailed that role really well. It's just too bad she didn't get.
Is that sarcasm?
No, actually, I thought she did quite well in that role, but she was only in that one movie. Yeah,
she
you
didn't
don't agree?
return.
Speak your mind. Go for it.
No.
I don't mind.
No. Listen, she had the part, I didn't. So what am I gonna say?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
You can still evaluate the way that you believe the character was portrayed. Now, here's the thing: there is some nuance to the character. Saavik isn't pure Vulcan; she's part Romulan. So there is that difference and that adjustment to the character, which wasn't exactly explained in the movie Star Trek II, but came out in the beta canon before, which explained why Spock had the affinity to support Saavik through her pursuit of a career in Starfleet. And then he got burned again in Star Trek VI, which was our most recent topic on Kenarwick Damar, with Valeris. Which, interesting thing there, Kim Cattrall straight up said, if this character is Saavik, I'm not doing it. Because because in the initial development of the script for Star Trek VI, they were looking at bringing back Saavik as that in that role, in that position on board. Because keep in mind, Star Trek VI really was the culmination. It was the ending of an era for the movie franchise of Star Trek. It was the last full movie of just the original series crew. So they were looking at ways to wrap up all these associations that they had if they could. So having that replacement Vulcan character on the bridge that Spock would be handing the torch off to was there. And the initial thought was, hey, what about Saavik? Saavik is still in Starfleet and still around. There's that relationship that goes back to when she was a trainee at the time of the Wrath of Khan movie. Why not? But then it was a question of what actress is going to play her. And during the negotiations, Kim Cattrall said, if I'm playing Saavik, the answer is no. If she wanted to be her own character, that way she could actually evaluate and develop that character herself in the way that she felt necessary for the movie. And it, in my opinion, it turned out better for it.
Do you think, I agree, do you think that there might have been also possibly a feeling that she didn't want to have anything to do with Kirstie Alley? I know Kirstie Alley got into Scientology and there's some other issues or something.
I think the way that she had phrased it, if memory serves, is that I'm not here to replace someone else. I am here for my own character.
Okay.
And it very well could be that personal side of it, not wanting that association of, oh, they're just replacing first Kirstie Alley, now Robin Curtis with her. And it's not because they wanted Kim Cattrall as the actress. They're just looking to replace the prior iterations, which I could see from a creative standpoint, from an actor standpoint. You're hiring me. Hire me for me, not to replace whoever was in the role before me. I mean, there are very few characters out there. There are very few roles out there that have a viable mechanism to recast and replace the actor playing the role in a way that makes sense. Doctor Who is one of the few. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doctor Who is a weird show to get into.
Oh, yeah.
You either love it or hate it, and the way the creative control of that series has gone downhill over the last few years, amongst other shows as well.
I've heard that.
Well, I don't hate it, but I'm not a fan of it. But it just doesn't pique any interest for me, that show. I don't know why.
I'm just mentioning, I don't know if it'll help if there's anything you can do, Jared, but we're getting some kind of echo back through you occasionally. I just thought I'd mention that. You were going to say, Miss Leighann?
Yeah, no, I think we talked about this a little bit last week, that I was under the delusion that I was a Doctor Who fan. What I really am is a David Tennant fan.
That's right.
Because that was my doctor. That's who I came in on, and I find him delightful. And then every doctor after him was annoying. And I kept thinking, okay, I'll wait for the next doctor. And then the next doctor showed up. I'm like, oh, I don't like this one either.
You know, my oldest daughter,
what'd you say?
My oldest daughter really likes Doctor Who, and her favorite is David Tennant.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy there. So much so that it was almost disturbing to see him in that first season of Jessica Jones. playing the villain. And I'm like, no, you're the doctor. You're good. I just couldn't let the actor move on. I have a hard time with that.
Well, I think if they brought David Tennant back as the doctor, they could have another big successful series. Do you?
Yeah, I do. But they managed to sometimes bring all the doctors together. I can't remember the name of the episode where they, I think it's the War Doctor, where they're all brought together, except for Baker. Baker's dead.
Yeah. There's issue to keep in mind on that. And while bringing back the prior actor and iteration of the Doctor would drum up interest, you got to look at the writing capability of the staff that they have that would actually be writing the episodes, because that has been my biggest criticism with Doctor Who since the second season of Capaldi. The writing, writing has gone downhill. Just look at the episode quality, not the visual production, not necessarily the casting, but the actual writing of the episodes has fallen off a cliff.
Wow.
Yeah, the writing is important, and I feel like it kind of went off the cliff with Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek STD, they call it these days.
No, don't be mean. That's my show.
Visual effects are awesome. But,
the visual effects are stunning, and sometimes it's like, okay, like everything's sunfire and light, and I'm like, why are we doing this?
But I think Picard blows them all out of the water. I still find the first original series and the Next Generation to be the best, but Picard is beating them all. It's just phenomenal.
Yes,
I
don't know.
I think there might be a difference in intent of the comment, but I would have to agree. Yes, Picard did beat them all.
I'm not unhappy. I am not unhappy at all with Picard. I'm on my second watching of that series. But I know I'm in the minority here. No pun intended. But I truly, truly love Discovery. Flaws in all. Does she make some bad decisions? Yes. I guess that's why I identify with her, because I have made some bad decisions. But if you like the version of Star Trek that some refer to as competency porn, where they are getting stuff done, they are coming together and embracing teamwork and a set of ideals that, are the better than are the sum of their parts. Yeah, that's it for me all day, every day. The guys look good in their jumpsuits too, which is a refreshing change.
Which one are we talking about? I got distracted. I'm sorry. I was watching the chat.
That's all right. But you know what? You should get distracted because you haven't seen it. You haven't seen Discovery.
Oh, okay.
So blah, blah, blah. Nothing to hear here.
Perfect.
We're talking about STD. Yeah.
Well, with Star Trek Enterprise, that again, me and the wife are going through, I've made the comment several times about how they're always getting them in their underwear. And then the last episode we watched an episode, not the very last one, here's the very last one. The one before that was about Hoshi, and damned if they didn't get her in her underwear. So somehow she was in a transporter accident, or she was in a dream or whatever, where she was fully dressed. And somehow she ended up running around through the show pretty much in her tank top and shorty pants. And
is that the one where they couldn't see her?
Yes. And the very next...
but we could see her in her underwear.
Yes, of course. And the very next episode is they've got Tucker rolling around with some alien queen lady in the water. And, of course, he's in his underwear, running around in his tidy blueies. I'm like, really? Every freaking episode you got to do this? All right. Star Trek can be sexy.
Maybe was Haynes the sponsor of the show?
Yeah, that's a good question. I never thought of that.
That's what happens when you hire writers. You spend too much time watching porn, I guess.
Right. Oh, and we learned something else too. I made this comment. I said, because we're not fans of Malcolm Reed, the actor or the character of the security guard. He's really tiny and all this for a security guard. No offense to tiny people. And then I was like, well, Scott Bakula is not tall, and all the crew is shorter than Scott Bakula. And we went and looked, and that's right. He's 6 foot even. And every crew member on the show is shorter than 6 foot. Every one of them. Malcolm's like 5'6" or 5'7". Connor Trenner is 5'11". The guy you would think would be tall, Mayweather, he looks tall. He's 5'10". So everybody on that crew is shorter than 6 foot Bakula.
Wow.
Just kind of happened to notice that.
And now we get into height bias.
Yeah,
Well, particularly when it comes to men, there have been studies
Yeah.
that taller men make more money
Yeah.
than shorter men. I mean, I won't date short men. I don't. I just.
Me
I
either.
have a thing about hobbits. There we go. Right. And like, I'm sorry if you're from the Shire, I can't date you.
Well, you know, I just think did they turn away better actors because they were taller than Scott Bakula and they didn't want him to look bad? Is that because Malcolm? I mean, surely there
Very
could have been
possible.
short. Yeah, because not a single person on that show. Of course, Kirk was shorter than Spock. So it's okay.
Yeah, but he was also larger than life.
Yeah.
In
I
his
have
own
to
way.
say
Yeah.
to Leighann, I have to say to Leighann, if she's completely closed to dating anybody from the Shire, that's probably her loss.
Probably.
Well,
Probably.
maybe we all
I
have our
dated a short
tastes.
guy once. I did my time. I'm done.
Halftime?
Now let's talk about those elves. Oh, Legolas.
Oh, you like those
What are you
ears,
doing
do
for
you?
dinner, sir? I love those ears. Listen, elves, Romulans, Vulcans, let's have coffee.
Yeah, it must be the ears.
Yeah,
It must
Romulans
be
and
those ears.
Vulcans are space elves. I've said that for a long time. Yeah.
Space
No,
elves. That is bordering on insolence, sir.
Yeah.
They're mhm.
Space elves.
See, there's
Trying not to rip into too much of the recent series because there is at one point my viewing of Picard actually it gave off the vibe of it trying to be the Pokemon of sci-fi. It's trying to collect all the fandoms.
How so?
Ah.
Episode 3 had a lot of Lord of the Rings vibe to it, didn't it?
you know, I haven't seen them.
Yeah, and there's one scene near one of the later episodes where all those I guess Romulan or Vulcan women are standing around that lit up part. Remind me of something from the Witcher series for some reason.
Yep.
Found that kind of an
I mean,
parallel.
but don't you think in some way they kind of had to do that?
No.
No.
You can have a successful show without ripping off other IPs.
Oh, no. It's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. I didn't mean outside of its own universe, but you know, the nods. I thought you meant the nods that it did to other story, other series in the franchise. That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm talking. What I meant is it was trying to collect the fandoms. It had elements to appease your fantasy type fans.
Okay.
Like where if you actually look at even just the visual appearance of Elnor, looks a lot like a young version of Elrond.
Yeah, I had if there was any character I had a problem with, it was his. And like, why is this Lord of the Rings character there? Like, he looked too perfect.
Now, backstage, I was talking about having, I think, or maybe it was just a moment ago, I was talking about seeing Gandalf and friends on the Starship Enterprise bridge. So there we go. Maybe there's a desire by the people behind Picard to see that happen too.
Well, this is a grander criticism of mine of overall sci-fi and pure entertainment type of shows across the board. The quality of writing coming from greater Hollywood has been in decline for easily 15 years at this point.
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah. Most definitely agree. I think the screenwriters are taking over.
You mean what screenwriters? You mean the children of studio executives?
Oh, screenwriters get in and they're known to put in formulas like, 2 explosions and 1 sex scene or it's not going to be successful kind of mantra, those types.
Right. Yeah, no, again, as a sci-fi fan, I get sucked in, like whatever they're doing, they know I'm going to watch and I'll complain later. But I really, for me, the movie that jumped the shark for me was Avatar, where I just couldn't. I'm like, because I'm in the Writers Guild East, and I'm like, of all the unemployed writers, East and West Guild, you couldn't hire real sci-fi writers who could come up with something better than unobtainium? Are you serious right now?
Yes.
Like, and
that's craziness.
I have not been able to let that go. And it's a successful film. People love it. And I am rage-filled whenever I talk about it.
So they're copying the original Star Trek series there with unobtainium.
Yeah.
Corbomite.
Now, going to Avatar, yes, it was visually stunning. But James Cameron, you are a pretentious son of a... And you really need to pull it back a little bit. I mean, when South Park goes to the point of using you as the caricature to go down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench to literally raise the bar... that means you think just a little bit too much of yourself there, buddy.
I don't mind healthy doses. I don't mind healthy doses of self-esteem. What I resent is taking advantage of fandom and people who really want to see good sci-fi. Not that I can do it, but when you've seen it done well, why would you settle for less? You know, what was that Alien offshoot? I'm trying to remember. It'll come to me, but they go. It's the offshoot of Alien, or the precursor to Alien,
Covenant?
and they go to. What was that, Chris?
I think it's called the Covenant, or one of the new.
Covenant is part. Alien Covenant is part 2.
Requiem.
No, it wasn't that.
It was the one before that. It was
Requiem. Was that what it's called? I don't know.
It wasn't Requiem. All I know is in the first, 20 minutes of the film, they go to this planet and they go, oh yeah, the atmosphere looks breathable, and they take off their helmets. I'm like, we haven't done a planet scan. We've tested for nothing. Like,
Prometheus.
You can't do a science fiction film, Prometheus, and ignore science.
That's so true.
So disrespectful.
Right. Absolutely, everything
and
they did.
I'm not a scientist, but come on, you guys. Basic planetary.
They can spare 30 seconds to fit that in. I totally agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen, we did a scan. Then maybe they cut that out of the movie. I don't know. But it was like, no, don't take your helmet off. What are you doing? You can't. And I'm mad the entire rest of the movie. They've lost me. Rightly so.
Hey, what do you think about this mixing of science fantasy with science fiction? I remember there was some controversy about it quite a few years ago when people started doing that at first.
What, can you give me an example? What do you?
I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Star Wars is more of a fantasy bent to a lot of its lore, as opposed to being pure sci-fi.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't know enough to draw those distinctions. Once I started really, really paying attention, and folks were in these hardcore camps, they're like, Star Wars isn't science fiction. And I'm like, but there are spaceships. How is that not science fiction? But nerdcore can get really very, very specific.
True.
And I find that I'm more science fiction than I am fantasy. Although I do love Game of Thrones, but it's not pretending to be sci-fi. That is strict fantasy.
Yeah, same thing with The Witcher and other shows of that ilk, where they fit more neatly into a single genre type, whereas sci-fi has enough nuance to it that you get things that actually cross those boundaries. Yeah. Which gets to be really interesting. Like a movie that not many people are really fans of and not really think of it as sci-fi, but it is when you look at the foundation of it. Looper was a good movie, and it has actually aged well.
I love Looper. It's one of my favorite time travel movies. I really love that one. And Star isn't hard on the eyes either. Both of them, actually. I would watch that again. I would actually find that and watch that today. That's how much I love that movie. But you've mentioned Witcher a couple of times. Would you recommend it? Is it a good series to dive into?
It's
The TV side is the TV one is good.
Okay.
The actual story itself, if you're to read it, it's very dark.
Yeah.
So the TV series actually lightens it up quite a lot, and the special effects are great. It's interesting. It's I find kind of a rushed version of a cross between Lord of the Rings and vampire culture.
Oh.
Yeah, and
I like both of those things.
Then you'll probably enjoy it. You'll probably enjoy it very much. There's lots of magic in it. Yeah.
Now,
it's fantasy.
One thing also to recognize and be cognizant of, so you don't get confused and into a mental loop with it. The series Witcher does jump around in time as you're going through the episodes. So it's not a linear storytelling. It's more of a stream of consciousness storytelling.
And the big problem with the way they do that is they don't tell you, 300 BCE or something. They just make the switch, and you have to kind of figure out that they've done that. And that's an error in production, I think.
I had trouble with that when I watched Watchmen on HBO. Am I getting that right? The title of the show? And everybody's like, "Oh, it's great, it's great, it's great." I'm like, would I have to have read the books beforehand? And everybody was like, no, you'll be fine. And they lied. I wasn't fine. I was lost most of the show. I mean, I like the outfits. I wanted to cosplay as her. I guess I kind of do now, the way I look when I go out to go shopping now in New York with my mask and the cape and the hat. It's great. But yeah, no, I would be following along, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, we're not where we were a minute ago. Where are we? And it took me a while to sort of catch the groove of the show.
Witcher is easier to follow in that aspect, but there are aspects where they jump in time, and the way they do it, it is abrupt when they do it, and they don't necessarily let you know if they want you to really figure it out. Because keep in mind, especially the first season of it, they're establishing it, they're building it for you, so they're not trying to give up the ghost too quickly for you. And the way they do it, some people can be frustrated by it, but from what I found, the majority of people are able to ultimately follow it and put it together. And it is an enjoyable bit because, like I said, it's more of a stream of consciousness style of storytelling versus a strict linear narrative.
I would say, Leighann, because you like both those science fantasy genres I mentioned, that it seems to be a cross between, that you probably wouldn't mind watching it twice, so you'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I as I am winding down on my Star Trek, because I've seen Discovery 3 times, I'm on my second Picard. I'm going to go to my season 7 of DS9, and then I'm going to embark on Voyager.
Chris,
I need to mix in something else.
I wonder are you familiar with Witcher?
Me? No, I'm not. I was vaguely hearing about what you were talking about. I've seen the ads. Henry Cavill shirtless. Got it. He's just smoking. But I haven't seen it. It does look like a fun show. I just haven't seen it yet. I don't even.
What service is it on? Is it Netflix? Is it Netflix. Amazon? It's Netflix. Okay. So all right, Netflix. You still get my money.
Right. Well, let me pause for just a moment. I just got to do this real quick because apparently Darth Dawkins is back, bugging.
Hey, welcome back.
And other folks.
Welcome back.
Either multiple accounts of his or friends of his or something. Listen, it's about the whole interruption of the show. See, this is why I don't like him in my chat. Why does he get blocked? For those of you, Darth, if you're watching, this is why you get blocked. In my chat, we're not talking about you. It's not about you, brother. We're talking science fiction with these people. Come in and say something about Star Trek, brother, and we will talk to you. But every time it's like, why are you banning me? Why are you being a jerk? Why are you doing this? How come you don't answer my questions? Why can't I be on your show? Dude, come in and talk about these things, and we will talk about them. But
I think you need to beam him to the brig.
Right. But right now, the whole deal is he's trying to get us to talk about him and to him. So I've done it. I've talked about you. I've talked to you. Now shut the hell up. Get out of my chat. Get your people out of my chat and let us get back on with our show. Otherwise, we're just going to block you. Ban you one right after that. Pardon me. Let me finish. We're going to ban him and block him. Okay? So either go away, talk sci-fi, or we're going to do the thing. Thank you. Now let's carry on. Richard, Randolph, carry on with whatever you were going to say.
And to leave it on, and I think that's a great point to transition into nudity. Just because he's a staunch Christian, he'll hate this. So I find, like in Game of Thrones, they show male and female nudity. In The Witcher, it's pretty much just female nudity that they show. It's interesting how these standards change. So I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are on nudity in science fiction, but a lot of the time I think it's unnecessary, or they make the scenes too long, because is it meant for a general audience or not? General audience is going to watch it anyway.
Right. It's gratuitous and unnecessary, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I like having an imagination. And while Terminator doesn't hold up stylistically, the love scene between Sarah Connor and Reese, it fades to black, and it's like, oh.
Good point.
If I'm recalling that correctly, I mean, you do see them together, but it's like, it's not, this overblown scene. I don't need that. I'm grown. I can figure it out. I'm good.
Actually, that's a good point. That's a good way to handle it, to just fade into black, and people, because we get the point. We know what's happening.
Right. I mean, I know that's very, I don't know, 1950s prudish. But I don't.
No, I don't think so.
I like the imagination. I like, hell, I'll take the glance, and maybe the hand holding. But I'm so conservative on that issue and old fashioned. I think that's private. I don't need the. I don't need it.
We're civilized.
When I was a kid, young or a younger person, all that stuff was kind of cool. Yep. Not so cool. I don't need it anymore. I really want meat of the story, not just tits and ass. I want more story. Sorry.
I will even say on Discovery, even the love, the relationship between Ash Tyler and Michael Burnham, they were together, but I thought it was tastefully done. Like the way they got to their couplehood, the relationship their physical relationship, I thought those scenes were beautifully done and very tasteful. Burnham? And you get it.
Did we
Michael Burnham is the star.
Star Trek Discovery. Okay, I didn't realize. I'm sorry, I was watching my chat. I didn't notice we switched to Discovery. My apologies.
That's okay. No, just as an example of love scenes well done. That's the only reason why I brought it up.
And one confusing point about the name Michael Burnham is character is a she.
No, I'm aware.
Right. Yeah, if you don't have any female Michaels in your life, I do.
Pretty rare, though.
So yeah, that could be confusing.
I could understand why you would.
When I first saw that, I thought, okay, I'm not hearing this right, because this is what.
Michael's a girl. They even bring that up in the show. Like, I don't know any Michaels. The only Michael I know is the mutineer. Is that you? You can tell I've watched the show a lot.
Yeah, and see, I haven't watched it enough. There were things I really appreciated about the show. That was the first show to use the word "fuck," if I remember right, as far as Star Trek. That was a shock for me.
They did?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they did. Star Trek Discovery.
I only watched the first 3 or 4 episodes.
Oh yeah, the redheaded chick. Yeah.
I stopped.
Oh.
I was very disappointed in that whole series. Yeah.
Yeah, they used the word "fuck."
I love it.
Yeah, I was surprised. Let's see. Was it fuck? Let me see. And fuck. Yeah. Why the new swearing policy? Star Trek Discovery drops franchise's first F-bomb. It says right here.
Really? And it was Tilly?
It was the redhead. Yeah. She said something like, "We're fucked," or something. Yeah.
Oh man,
I wouldn't lie to you guys right here in front of everybody.
No. I take your word for it. You know what? I guess because I'm a New Yorker and I swear like a sailor, it just probably went so past me.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was that. It surprised me. Oh, here's what she says. She says, we did it by saying. She says, "This is so fucking cool." She's talking about the spore drive or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah, I could see that.
Imagine.
It probably went way past me, but yeah.
They're sort of testing the waters there, because they're using it in a positive comment rather than a negative one. So they're halfway there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. They even said that in the article that they used it in a good way.
They're testing the waters.
Right.
Testing the waters or showing their writing capability.
See, at least
tomato.
These people show who they are.
See, well, and of the latest iterations of Star Trek, that really is something that I'm really torn on when you look at those stylistic choices that they've gone with, where your core tenets, you were getting glimpses and criticisms of humanity, but you were getting it in a different modality than what is currently being done. And a lot of what they're doing now comes off as browbeating, just for the sake of browbeating.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to watch to see. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. La 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 la. But
I was going to ask, do you have an example of that, or or a particular episode that's emblematic of that?
How a lot of the characters outside of the direct associations that are shown, well, I'm trying to think of how to word this without being too much of a spoiler
Okay.
Because it really does get into the nuance and detail of what actually does happen. And and I'll say, well, you've finished the season. The ending, where they went with the season 1 of Picard, did you see it as predictable?
No.
I did.
Well, there were certain predictable parts,
well,
but
yeah, there are predictable parts. I mean, you're going to expect him to save the day. I mean,
no. I mean what they did with the character himself. Like, not that he saved the day. That bit is always going to happen. They're always going to get to some sort of resolution. That's what you expect from a show of Star Trek. But what specifically they did with the character, I saw that from episode 2.
Okay.
There was no mystery in watching the entire story arc to me.
Yeah, I could see that. I guess there's so much in me that gives Star Trek a pass. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, guys, I saw that coming, but it's still Star Trek, and I love you. Only because
these are the things we like about it. Yeah.
Right. Because I was having a conversation the other day about science fiction. And people have come to define science fiction now as being this, what's the word for it? This downer, dystopian.
The dark dystopian.
Right. That's how people are defining sci-fi. And I'm like, no, I'm from the Roddenberry side of this debate. Where our possible future are humans rising above politics, rising above illness, rising above above hunger, and where our goal is now to be better people. We don't even need money. Like, I don't even understand that. I'm from the 80s. I'm all about money. So for humans to get to that level, I'm like, why can't we think of it that way? Yes, the future is Canada. But yeah,
I thought you were in New York. Thank you very much, neighbor.
But this embracing of the darkness is like, is everybody a Sith now? Like, why can't it ever be Jedi light, live long and prosper, Federation, Starfleet? Now we have to all be Section 31. I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
You're touching on a very interesting point to me. My kids are right into Harry Potter. I read the whole series to them, so I'm quite familiar with it. I contrast things with Lord of the Rings sometimes. They're both excellent stories for different reasons. And what I really liked about J.K. Rowling's writing is her characters, unlike a lot of other shows where the character grows and realizes the errors of their ways and becomes a better person in the end. Not so with her characters. Her characters stayed consistent to the end for the most part. The kids are growing, of course, but look at Professor Snape. He's always difficult for the kids to deal with, to put it mildly and gently. And right to the end, he's still kind of a nasty bugger, but then they finally figure out he's actually on their side. But they weren't sure before because of his disposition, his demeanor and all this. And that did not change over time. He wasn't convinced to change that. So she has that aspect of it, which gives it a certain realistic kind of way to it, and I like that about it, because in a way it also teaches the kids, hey, look, some people will be like this, they may actually be good, but this is their personality, it's not going to change, this is reality. Yeah. So I thought that was very good. A lot of good stuff in that story. Yeah,
a lot of good stuff in that story. I liked the books better than the movies. The movie, the first movie was technically accurate, but to me, it had no soul. Like if I didn't read the books, I wouldn't have cared about the characters.
What? One thing I like the most about that whole series is that a bunch of Catholic churches banished it.
Yes.
That gets points.
Like, that's good reading,
that is an achievement. That is an achievement for any author. If you get your book banned, that's free publicity worldwide immediately.
I know. That's great. Oh yeah, that was totally great. Do you know what house you're in? Do you go that far? Do you know where the Sorting Hat would put you?
I don't. My kids figure that I'd probably be in the same one that Harry Potter was in. I'm sorry, the name escapes me.
Oh, that's okay. That's Gryffindor.
Yeah, Gryffindor. Yeah, so that's where they figure I'd be. Like, my oldest one figured she'd be in Slytherin, and the youngest is somewhere else. I think I might have been.
All that's left is Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff.
Yeah, I think she might have been thinking she'd be in Hufflepuff, but I might not be remembering right. So, but they figure
let you know.
Gryffindor. Sorry?
They'll let you know. Yeah, once you have your house, you have your house.
But a more serious answer to that question is I would just say to the hat, this is where I want to go. And that's where I'd go.
That's kind of what Harry Potter did, because he put the Sorting Hat on. He was like, please not Slytherin, please not Slytherin. So...
But look at the wisdom there. It's like the Sorting Hat is saying, oh, this is where you want to go, then this must be where you fit. All right, this is where you go. Because, if somebody wants to go to a certain place, if you can accommodate that, you're probably going to get better results in the end. So there you go. That's under Gandalf's, the Dumbledore's leadership.
Oh, I
right?
miss Dumbledore.
Oh, yeah.
I saw
they really built him up before he got knocked out of there.
I saw all but the last movie. I've never seen the last movie. I watched them all one weekend, and I was just by the sixth. I was just, the first part of the last.
It does get a bit dark, but it's worth seeing. It's the Lord of the Rings series. Do you, as you're part of the Writers Guild, do you consider Lord of the Rings to be a trilogy or 6 books? I'm thinking 6 books.
6 books.
Yeah. I think the movies for Lord of the Rings should have been 6 movies instead of 3. And one thing, I really liked those movies, but I think one thing they could have improved on was not dropping off the wisdom imparted by Gandalf as they got into later movies. I think they should have kept that stuff going because that was so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you shall not pass. Like what?
Fly, you fools!
That's how I drive my car. I'm like, you shall not pass.
New York, right?
New York.
The taxi drivers must love you.
I grew up here. I learned how to drive here, and I don't consider myself an aggressive driver, but aggressive is seen as defensive here because my friends who grew up here but didn't learn how to drive here can't drive here. They're like, how are you not afraid? I'm like, how do you not have a body shop guy? Like, this is what it is. I have a body shop guy. His name is Robert. I'm not even kidding.
And you see him regularly?
At least every couple of years, yeah. Like
no fault of your own, of course.
He knows. Never. Yes, my insurance is ridiculous.
Now, so what do you think?
Happen.
What do you think will happen if there's flying cars in New York?
Pandemonium.
Wait.
But here's the thing: nothing happens instantly. We don't go straight from regular driving to flying. There's going to be some interim steps that will allow people to adjust. Or I don't know, maybe they'll.
The collisions are going to be spectacular, aren't they?
Hang on. You want flying cars in New York City?
No.
Do you remember what happened to the Empire State Building in the late 30s?
Mm-hmm.
Remember? How old do you think I am, sir?
I wasn't there.
I'm familiar with it.
About my aging, but I'm not that bad.
I was hit by an airplane in the fog.
Someone in a B-24 flew into it because of fog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but have you
that
seen The
was in
Fifth
the
Element?
30s.
The Fifth Element
Yes.
shows you New York City with flying cars.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not a fan of The Fifth Element, but yes, I've seen
Oh,
it. Because I'm a science fiction fan. I'll watch any slop they throw down in front of me. I can't help it.
Well,
The Fifth Element had a good plot, and great special effects.
I
but
love
I
Fifth
didn't
Element.
like the dirty, grubby aspects of it. Yeah.
I loved it. I just didn't like the follow-up. I waited so many years. I was really hoping the new movie was going to be really good and like Fifth Element. It had great graphics. Visually, my eyes were pleased. That was it. The story sucked. It created a negative pressure environment.
And again, like you guys were saying earlier, in our conversation, what happened to the writing? Why did we lose that? I mean, the very foundation of human society is tell me a story.
My daughters have complained about some of the Disney films. The second ones, they all cover marriage.
Well, in the first one, usually they're trying to get married. Isn't that the kind of deal? The princess is chasing the prince.
Look at Mulan, the first cartoon. That one was so well done. It was excellent. They show finally they have this female role model who's strong and can actually fight these big tough warriors and all this stuff and show capability. And then the second one, it's all about getting married. It's like, what happened here? They deflated the ball.
Hormones is what happens. Hormones ruin all of us. And we spend the rest of our lives trying to recover from hormone poisoning. That is
those writers. Those writers need to leave their hormones at home. I tell you.
But listen, it's the social programming. That's a lot of times what stories and movies and books are. It's
if the second movie of Lord of the Rings was all about everybody getting married, the movie would have flopped.
Yeah. Well, my understanding is
I don't know. I'd have coffee with Gandalf.
Yes, but watching you having coffee with Gandalf would probably not sell a lot of books. I'm just saying.
No, but it would be a hilarious sketch on Saturday Night Live.
Damn straight.
Gandalf is like, what robe should I wear?
That is the perfect stage for it. Saturday Night Live. Yes.
My understanding is that Tolkien, there would have been no romance in the books at all of Tolkien's work had it not been for his daughter pressing him to get women and romance and stuff in the books. It's my understanding. I could be wrong. And wow. I'm the same way. I have a sci-fi novel that I wrote. It's a manuscript. I'm ready to go. I'm just trying to build my community before I release. And there is almost no romance in it at all. There's just a tiny bit. And that's only because my wife said, you need to get some kind of woman in there for this guy or some kind of relationship, and so, yeah.
I've been writing a story for quite a few decades now, since I was a kid, and I have about 250 different alien species, and it's a science fiction, science fantasy kind of combination, and I do have some romance in it as well. And there's one species lives over 1,000 years and has kind of met with other species and who don't live nearly as long, has had quite a few ex-spouses, and has memories of one. He's been able to bring one back, so he brings back his favorite, and so we get into the I guess the philosophy aspects of how do you pick a favorite, and is this even the right thing to do? And to me, this is good science fiction if you get into these kind of philosophical issues and try to uncover what is wrong with a person's thinking and what's right about it and stuff like that. So,
I find it
the romance,
that in
I think
stories,
if you have it tie into some kind of philosophical issue that gets people thinking, then you can get a lot of meaning out of the romance as well, different meaning out of it as well.
You were saying, Miss Leanne?
No, just it's interesting that in stories that are male driven or male leads, it's like, oh yeah, romance. Okay. Stories that are female driven, like, where's the guy? He's got to be there. We need a guy. Like, it's
yeah.
Like it's mandatory. We can't just go, have happy lives. There's got to be a guy in there somewhere. Okay.
Fair enough.
Like, honey, you watch the kids. Am I going to go off and be a superhero? Can we do that?
Quite a few of the species in my series, they're not just two sexes. We have a whole bunch of different numbers of sexes. And some of the research I've done on this, I came across some kind of article. They're talking about the creatures at the bottom of our oceans. And they found the number of sexes that different variations of species have are all total numbers and prime numbers, except there's one that has 4 different sexes. And so I'm kind of keeping with that. So there's one with 1 sex, one with 2 sexes, 3 sexes, 4 sexes, 5, 7, 11, 13. They haven't found one with 9. They haven't found any other even numbers. And so I'm kind of keeping with that rule because I don't know if it's true, but some of these species, they have some of them have very elaborate mating rituals where you have to have a certain percentage of them in order to keep passing on the seed, in order to procreate. Others, it just needs two or 3 of them. And so I'm incorporating that into various species as well. So this creates new dynamics as well. So what is misogyny against one of the sexes in a species with 3 sexes? And it changes the way the perspectives work on this stuff. So it kind of opens the door for some interesting writing.
It definitely means that their version of Match.com is going to need some really serious programming.
Star Trek.
That's not binary at all.
Yeah, Star Trek Enterprise addressed that. They had a trinary. I'm sorry.
Well, they had the trinary set up. They with the cogenitor. Also, look at the way the Denobulians are set up, where every husband has 3 wives and every wife has 3 husbands.
Right.
I'm not mad at that.
But in that particular case, that's a binary sex. They only have 2 sexes.
It's still, but when you look at how Phlox and one of his wives really had fun with Tucker.
Yes.
I enjoyed that.
Yes, I did. I did too. Yeah.
So did Tucker, apparently.
No, Tucker didn't. That was the thing.
Very
really?
I didn't. He's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well,
he's a weirdo.
So he was raped?
No, Tucker. No, it never happened, because while she was interested and Tucker was physically attracted to her, his sensibility of monogamy and that very go back to the 50s platonic type of relationship really kicked in, and it's like, it's your wife. No, I'm not doing it. And Phlox and his wife were like, what's the big deal?
What's the big deal?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You kind of can't get past your programming on these things. Yeah. Which is that you realize that's all about you. I was going to say that DS9 also made their contribution on that level a little bit with Dax. She had, the different symbionts, and she could be male, she could be female, and had this 300-year lifespan and in one of the episodes she ran into someone that she was married to, and now that symbiont is a woman. And that love was still there, that relationship was still there. I love when Star Trek does stuff like that.
Randolph mentioned
it kind of stretches your mind.
Absolutely. And they were really on the front lines in the whole LGBT. Wonderful. Yeah, I enjoyed those episodes. Yes. What he was talking about, though, specifically, he said talking about misogyny in a race with 3 sexes. 3 different sexes.
Tell you, one pet peeve I want to cover here. A lot of the time in science fiction, the dialogue will talk about races when they actually mean species, because within a species there can be different.
Yeah.
You agree? I'm so glad that's music to yours. So, go ahead, Chris.
No, we are not precise with our language, just across the board, and so we can't even agree what love means. And many times we don't define our terms, and we'll pick a term to be this overall arching thing, and colloquially, yes, technically, no. So, no, I get you.
Yeah.
I actually wrote an article about the 9 different types of love that I've been able to identify. I'm just going to put the link into the private chat here. Feel free to share it out, Chris, in the YouTube. And
I can't even see that over, brother. I can give you a wrench.
Wow. Like I read the 5 languages of love, and I'm still trying to keep up with the first 2.
Right. Well, there's a couple of real quick. I just want to say that in your deal, you said misogyny in a race of 3 with people with 3 sexes. And Enterprise, it does cover that. There's a male, a female, and this cogenitor between them where it's not male, not female. And they actually do discriminate against that one. So that's right there. That's your whole deal out the water.
You're right.
I'm just saying
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they treat him like shit, him, her, like shit, them, like shit. And the matter of fact,
no
at the end of the episode, it kills itself, if I remember.
And with some of the species, Yeah, and with some of the species in my story where they may have 11 sexes, there's different levels of it. So there's two of the sexes that are discriminated against, but then they even discriminate against another one, and it's just so there's multi-leveled. And so I get right into this in one of the species.
And the different deals about the different kinds of love as far as the Bible goes. I mean, I've heard that in church before. This when in ancient Greece, when they say this word, this means this kind of love. Agape love means the kind of love you have for your father. Chipotle love is the kind of love you have for your girlfriend. Booga booga love is the love you have for your sister's daughter's cousin. I've heard lots of different, there's different times. I was just making up words. You know what I mean? There's different words for the different types of affections you feel. We all use one. I love my wife. I love my father. I love my best friend. I love my daughter. I don't love them all in the same way. And there are different words for that. That's all it is. I mean, that's.
And one of the distinctions.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the distinctions I point out in Leighann, you're reading it, aren't you? One of the distinctions I point out is that somebody, like, we have a love for our family members that's different than a love for a spouse and different from some other kinds of love. And we may, and I take it to try to really push the example. I say, look, you may be a parent who loves your child, and your child may have gone, here's a worst case scenario. They've committed mass murder, and they've admitted to it in the courts, and they've shown the police where the bodies are. It's absolutely clear. They're totally guilty of it. The parent dislikes very strongly what their child did, but they still love their child as their child.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have you met my mother?
Separating the person from the act.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
No.
Yeah, no. Love is very conditional in my family. We don't have unconditional love.
That's introducing stress.
You know, I just real quick, if y'all don't mind, let me interrupt. If you guys would like to take a break and continue, I can do a little break and you can get coffee and continue. Or if you're ready to get close to wrap up, we've been after the hour, and I thought I'd start being courteous and offering my guests the opportunity to take a break. If y'all want to take a break,
I'm okay with continuing. I want to hear what Leann's about to say.
Wow. Well, I was just going to say, you know, as loose and as broad as the word love is, the word friend has become that as well. I cannot have 5,000 friends on Facebook. I had one of my really, really good friends. We were best friends. She wasn't into social media for that very reason. She's like, why would I let these strangers into my world? Why would I say they're friends? Because she put real meaning and real value on the word. Everybody else is acquaintances, co-workers, you know, and I think internally we make those distinctions. But yeah, no, I have friends. I have 5,000 friends on Facebook. We're friends. We're not.
So you really have no friends, is what you're telling me.
Right.
I would shoot back with that because I'm the same way. When I deem someone a friend, there are aspects of my life that they are made aware of, that they are privy to, that no one else knows. Like,
right.
Not everyone needs to know the details of everything that I have going on. There are very few people who even have the majority of the information of what goes on inside my head and what I deal with on a regular basis. That is a friend. That is a confidant. The two
confidants, yes.
To me, the two terms are synonymous. They are intrinsically linked. That if you have someone who is a friend, you have the ability to use them as a confidant either for all or even just some subjects. That really does come down to you. But if you don't have that level of trust and openness with a person that you know, they're not a friend, they're an acquaintance. They are a person. I was
going to say acquaintance. Yeah.
Yeah, they are a part of your social network.
And that's what they are on Facebook. They're acquaintances, not friends, most of them.
Right. But yeah, and I feel like there's a word in between, like after acquaintance, something that's stronger than acquaintance, but not quite a friend. And my mind is failing me. I don't know what that is, you know, strong acquaintance. I don't know.
It could be a spectrum too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Some people would say that word would be relative.
Once again, have you met my family, sir?
Relatives could be friends or enemies. You know, it's
yes.
Yeah,
and even lovers.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you don't get a blood pass with me, because there are people that I'm related to or related. And there's some folks that have risen to friendship level, usually among cousins, or that special aunt or uncle. Not everybody, you're not friends with everybody.
There's definitely more familiarity with family, but sometimes family can't be friends. It's just the way it is.
Yes.
And to think that family should get special treatment, you're absolutely right. There's no special pass. If some family member is dishonest and going around tricking you and stealing from you, well, obviously you need to call the police because they're stealing your stuff or they're physically hurting you. That's no special treatment. Yet a lot of people in the family say, oh, why did you call the police? They're your brother or they're your relative or they're your sister or cousin or something. Well, because what they did is wrong. Like, come on. And these things drive some families apart because I think this expectation is wrong. It's a poison in society that people have this expectation there should be a special exception just because they're family.
No, I agree. They still broke a law. They still performed an act that requires and necessitates a consequence of a negative style.
Yep. Yeah, we value our family when they're good. Just like we value our friends when they're good.
I would go so far as to say that as a family member, you have a responsibility to, because that love. A parent that loves child. And I'm not a parent, but I had very good parents. My parents disciplined me. My parents gave me guidelines. My parents gave me a bedtime. I had expectations set for me. I knew I had a curfew. I knew when to come home. That's love. Yeah. When you do that for someone and you hold them to expectations. And if I did something wrong, I knew about it. They didn't let it slide. Letting it slide is not love.
She has your best interest at heart. She's helping you. And that she's being your friend as well as being a responsible parent. And that's an important distinction. Is being a good relative and being a good friend are different things. We don't get to choose our relatives, but we can choose not to associate with them if need be. This whole saying, it's very eloquent. Fairly eloquent. Is blood is thicker than water. Is one that resonates with people because it sounds catchy. And people very often fall for this trap. They say, wow, sounds so eloquent, it must be true. And this is the thinking that we need to change. People should be questioning these things instead of saying, oh, it's eloquent, we should just go along with it.
Exactly. I mean, the family sometimes that you build, and I'm not saying that you're necessarily always abandoning your birth family, but there's your birth family, and then there's, as you move through life, that team of folks that you build, of friends, maybe some acquaintances, maybe different levels of friendship. If something happened to you right now and you knew, okay, who I can pick up the phone and call, there's that person in your mind. You also know who you wouldn't tell. But we build our team, both family and professional. Like, that person who's really good at whatever and you're not. That's the person you call. And again, I bring it back to Star Trek. That family theme in Discovery, that family theme in Next Generation, and particularly that family theme in Picard. He's in trouble. Where did he go? And who did he not call? Specifically, he said, because I know they'll do it if I call them.
Riker.
And he right, exactly. And he said, I'm not doing it. And then he still ended up going to family. I'm trying to couch this in as delicate terms as I can so I don't ruin anything for Chris.
Oh yeah, no, I'm kind of not paying attention. I'm watching my chat. I'm watching my show, making sure everything's going good. You go ahead. Chat's going good. Well, it got to where I just started blocking the people who were the Darth Dawkins shills who were coming in. Yeah. Just started blocking them and quit addressing them, and they went away.
I'm new to this culture. I don't really have a lot of time to show up in places I don't like or watch things that make me mad. Right. I'm very busy. Who does this?
Darth Dawkins, apparently.
People with too much time on their hands. And
I don't even understand what that means. I don't understand extra time. I don't. I'm
people with nothing better to do. Yeah. But they're easily entertained by ridiculous stuff. But to get back to this point about what we would tell family and what we'll tell friends, I think one particularly great example of this would be that people sharing sexual fantasies. They'll do that with their lovers and their spouses, but they won't share that with their parents. And things like that. Yeah, right away you're like, hey, we're selective. What kind of friends we have and who will share things. Right?
Chris, the look on your face is priceless. I love that. Like,
But
why
would you? Why would you do that? I don't. That doesn't. Why are we talking about that? How did that happen?
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know how we got here.
I
I'm
know
gonna sip my coffee and let you fix it.
I know.
Mom and Dad,
people,
I have some news for you. I'm straight.
I know people out there who are just the type of, I guess you want to call it sadistic humor types, where they will talk about just about anything with anyone just to see their reaction.
Yeah, the button pushers. Yep. Yeah, okay.
They have a different expectation of friends than most of us.
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing between going. There's one thing between going, Mom and Dad, I'm straight, or Mom and Dad, I'm gay. Right? That's not what you said, though. You said you will tell your lover things you like that you wouldn't tell your parents, or that's different. That's that's different. You don't go to your mom and dad and give. I'm not going to give examples.
I think that's wise. Because I don't want to know either.
Right. Or even just things pulled out of my head. But you know what I mean? That doesn't seem like a conversation. Sci-Fi Saturday, not sexual disturbance problem with your parents Saturday. This is not Dr. Freud Saturday.
Thank you, Chris.
What is sci-fi and sci-fi without the sex?
Well, see, actually, there's a couple of us who it's sci-fi, yeah. We actually mentioned that earlier. Star Trek Enterprise kind of pouring too much sexuality onto the show. We need sci-fi. I got Pornhub. Have you seen Pornhub? I don't need that in my Star Trek.
It's Canadian, by the way.
So when you look at shows, that make those decisions, you do need to look at some context and what else was going on, especially towards later in Enterprise. They were having a viewership drop off, and part of it is because they were at a Trek saturation point when that series was on air.
I would disagree.
And when did it start? It started shortly after Voyager. And
after Voyager. So no more Star Trek. There's no more Star Trek. Not while Voyager is going. That would be the glut if they had done it while Voyager and DS9. But DS9 and Voyager had been gone for a couple of years. And when there was a vacuum of Star Trek, what screwed up was their horrible writing, the horrible way they did Scott Bakula, his cast, his crew, all the stories. Then they started dropping into 3 and 4 episode arcs. Every episode is a 3 and 4 episode arc. You got to watch all this crap over and over.
Well, hang on. Again, let's look at it in total context. You're looking at that time scale as more of a now time scale where we get media a lot quicker, a lot higher quality.
No, I'm not. I was there, dude. I watched this stuff come out. I don't know how old you are, but I was there when this came out. I was one of the guys going, we need the Star Trek. Go ahead and tell me what I was thinking again.
Well, no, it's when you look at it in context, when you look at it in that one, yes, there was that thirst, but at the same time, there was the individual smaller pockets of that. The overall that initially drove it was on a tail end. A lot of interest in the IP was on a slightly downward tint at that point, because you're coming off of End of TNG, DS9, Voyager, and the TNG movies in a rapid succession.
But they produced a half-ass show for 2 whole seasons. It was just poor. And then
that is part of the creative failure of it. And part of that creative failure is because as they saw their ratings dropping, rather than thinking, hey, let's get better stories and let's actually get better character development, they went for the quick fix. They went for, well, what is it that people are going for? What is it that they're watching? Why are they watching it? Oh, they're watching it for these adult themes and these other aspects that were not traditionally in Trek to the extent that you see them in Enterprise, and they made the wrong decision to bring the audience back.
Right. No. I would disagree. Now, again, the little adult themes, Star Trek has always embraced adult themes. They've always broke those barriers.
But not to the extent.
But whenever they went and they started doing these, everything is a 3 and 4 episode arc, they had a perfectly good timeline to work with. And who the hell are the Xindi? Why'd they bring on the Xindi? These things pissed off the people. They didn't need to do that. They didn't need to trash the story we knew already to make a new story. They had the Romulan War was right there. They had all these things they could have done, and they dropped the ball on all these different areas. To say that there was a glut of Star Trek, maybe, I guess you could argue that, but there was so many other missteps they did wrong with this series.
I'm going to argue that now. Actually, the creative point that King Jared just made is right. I noticed, like with the original Star Trek, they introduced something significant that's new. Transporters and this whole thing with the Vulcans, right? And these were very unique things for science fiction, and they were fantastic. They were huge ideas, epic ideas. And then the Next Generation introduced holodecks and the Borg and Commander Data and Android. So these are all quite new and interesting ideas. With Voyager, it started off good, but then it turned into a soap opera pretty quickly. And the others, they weren't really introducing new ideas. And I noticed this seemed to correlate with Gene Roddenberry exiting the scene, not by choice, he passed away, but unfortunately. But I suspect a lot of these ideas came from him, and we're just not seeing this kind of innovation in the new series. And it would be very nice to see this in the new series, these kinds of new ideas coming along. And yeah. So now, and I think that's where things kind of went sideways, and they're probably panicking because they aren't as creative as Roddenberry and not coming up with the new ideas. So they kind of, in a way, had very little choice, probably in their own eyes, to, okay, we're going to have to figure out something here, and let's look at what normally works and just go for the formula because that's easier. Maybe that's what's happened. It's a shame, really.
Well,
I think people want to see new ideas.
Are we talking about a particular incarnation of Star Trek?
I'm talking like the original series introduced the teleporters, and they introduced Vulcans.
Right.
And then the Next Generation introduced holodecks and the Borg. Like, those are epic ideas that really add a lot to the whole series. The rest of the series don't seem to really add anything epic like that. You know,
is the spore drive in Discovery not epic?
Well, I wonder about that because we never see that again. That's nowhere else in Star Trek.
Yeah, but we saw it in Discovery.
But you know what? Yeah. Each one just gets faster and faster. It's just another variation on that technology. I'm talking about a whole epic new idea. I thought to me that's just a variation.
Well, and here's to echo Chris here on this. What I do not have a favorable view of Discovery, and it's the same reason that he explained as not having a favorable view of what was going on in Enterprise. You have a lot of things being thrown into a series that have no basis and no mention elsewhere in Trek, and is not actually fitting with everything else.
I agree with that.
That was part of so we have these fractured universes with Star Trek. We got the original series, and we've got the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, and they're all part of, as far as we know, this contiguous universe.
The prime timeline.
Yes, the prime time. And then with Enterprise is the first one that breaks off of that. And my mind wasn't ready for that. Whenever the show started getting desperate for viewers, they went to the Xindi instead of the Romulans. If they'd have gone to the Romulans for the Romulan War, instead of making up this whole Xindi and a whole splintered universe crap, I would have worked better. Again, kind of the same thing a little bit with Discovery. I'm trying to be fair to Discovery because I've only seen most of one season. I haven't seen the rest, and other people have told me that a lot of my issues will be cleared up later. The one thing though was the spore drive. I did have a hard time with that.
Now, there's a golden opportunity.
I watched it 3 times so I could understand it.
Good. Yeah.
There's a golden opportunity that I think that the whole Star Trek franchise completely missed the boat on. In Voyager, there was an interaction of some other kind of faction of Star Trek that is into time travel. And they have temporal prime directives and stuff like that. Instead of making Enterprise, what they should have done is made that series a whole series where they're exploring all this stuff with time. That would have been fantastic. They would have competed directly with Doctor Who on that if they did that. I don't know if you caught everything I just said, Leighann.
No, I missed it.
Okay, so what I was saying is with Voyager, they had another faction of Star Trek come in a few times that had temporal prime directive, and they were going back in time and fixing the timeline and things like that for the screw ups. And they didn't like Janeway because she screws up the timeline too much. And anyway, they what I think instead of Enterprise they should have done is gone into that, because that would be more in the future, and they would have competed direct on with Doctor Who, but in a really great way.
Well, that's making Janeway like a Time Lord, right?
Yeah, but their spaceships, their starships can travel through time, and they're going around fixing timeline errors, and they could have done a whole series on that instead of going back in time to Enterprise and being stuck in the old times. When I saw that,
But
my first reaction, I don't want to see the past.
That sounds like Quantum Leap.
Combination Quantum Leap and Doctor Who.
Preach it, brother. Preach it.
Weren't those several episodes worth in Enterprise? You know, where they're
do that
dealing with
Daniels.
time.
Yep, they have the whole.
All the different series dealt with time some way, but this one they could have done a whole series where they're following this crew that's going around fixing the timelines.
My least favorite episodes
that would be interesting.
Yeah,
that would be a lot more interesting than Enterprise, and I think more interesting than STD as well, Star Trek Discovery as well.
Well, there's like 15 years between the two.
But there's also a time element there when you're dealing with how control.
But I'm not just talking about a time element. I'm talking about making that the focus of the show, that they're going and fixing timelines that get broken and showing how they go around doing that. That would have been fascinating.
Yeah, show the actual deviation points.
Yeah.
Now, here's my question. Is that Star Trek? Or is that a different show entirely?
It can be, because here's the thing. They've already opened the door to it by mentioning the temporal Cold War, which is a running theme throughout multiple parts of the overall IP that is Star Trek. When you look at novels, games, shows, everything, there is that time traveling connection and correction component to it that dates all the way back to the original series. So it wouldn't be a foreign concept for Trek to do it. What I find interesting is, let's actually look at it this way, because this might actually help some people wrap their head around some of the certain shows and how they actually come into place. And Enterprise has two facets to this, so I'll address that on its own in a second. But for the whole timeline thing, yes, you have your prime timeline, which, as established in canon so far, is the original series, the animated series, TNG, DS9, Voyager, your original crew, your TOS crew movies, so 1 through 6, and Generations. Then you have First Contact, and here's where you have a clear on-screen schism, where the Enterprise E goes back to make sure that First Contact takes place.
Right.
This is where Enterprise comes in. This is where Discovery comes in. Because if you look at the differences that you have pre and post that point in time, you get a visual difference and change in things that show maybe not stark differences across the board, but enough noticeable differences and discrepancies that is a branching off point to where Enterprise is what we got on screen in Enterprise was this alternate timeline, not necessarily the prime timeline. Because keep in mind, these alternates can have a lot of overlap. Look at Mirror Universe versus Prime Universe. You get a lot of similarities across the two with fundamental shifts.
Well, you know, you mentioned a lot of those like they're related, but they're not related. The time traveling we see in the original series where they go back in time to change things is not related to the time war that happens in Enterprise at all.
No.
And now wait,
I recognize that, but
and the fact that they go back in time in Picard, not in Picard, but in that first movie, First Contact, that is prime. That is Prime Universe. That's the way it happened. Period. The first time. That's not a deviation from anything. That is the prime. They went back in time and created.
Question.
Right. But that's not related to Enterprise at all. Enterprise plays on it because they go back in time and tries to stick on the thing. Again, they would have been great if they had done that, except for they had to bring out the Xindi.
So wait, are we not seeing Enterprise as being in that same timeline? You see them as being an alternate?
I see it as an alternate, and also another facet to Enterprise is looks like she lagged out again.
We can just wait a moment for her to come back.
Yeah, she'll pop back here.
Yeah.
There's
This is fascinating. Yeah, and temporal prime directive would be one I'd be very interested to see them explore.
But all right, I appreciate you in that, right? But the time travel episodes are my least favorite. Whenever there's a that's a whole series I wouldn't bother watching. You know?
Yep.
I mean, it's just kind of those are always my least. I'm like, really, a time travel?
But a series like that just does time travel with the temporal prime directive will have all kinds of interesting philosophical issues to deal with, and they'll have newer technology because they can go to the future to get it.
Now, the reason why that, from my evaluation, I would put Enterprise as the series Enterprise as a separate timeline. Look at the design of the ships.
Huh?
The design of the NX-01
is exactly as it should be. Yeah, the design of the NX, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but as far as I know, the change in timeline didn't happen until the beginning of season 3 when the Xindi. Well, actually, the whole of Enterprise, because it was doing the temporal time war. So right from the very beginning, they had the temporal agents come out chasing the Suliban, who should not have been there. They shouldn't have been in the show. That made it a different timeline. Am I wrong?
Well, you have that internally to the show. Yes, but the show itself, even the design of the NX-01 did not show up anywhere did not show up anywhere, no even hints of it until First Contact with, where it was even said that the design of the NX-01 was done as a throwback of an older version of the Akira. And if you look back at the rest of the IP, the TNG, TOS, when you go back into the actual canon source material and look at those references for how starships looked historically in that era, Enterprise didn't go in that direction. Enterprise went in its own offset, which would make more sense with it being an alternate timeline where the Enterprise E came back and helped make First Contact happen the way that it should have by their records.
Right.
So you have that schism foundation.
It didn't. It actually, again, it games back to the Suliban and the time fractured, what do they call it? There's a time
You can
war.
have multiple schisms. I am giving you that later in the series, more schisms happened because of the temporal Cold War and the way that they tried to shoehorn that in.
Yeah.
I'm talking just about foundation. Look at the initial happening of Enterprise. Just look at the initial pilot, Broken Bow.
I think we're arguing about the same thing. I think
we're not. You're moving to later. I'm looking at the actual foundation of the series.
All I'm saying is Enterprise is not canon. It's not part of the same timeline that the Next Generation, that the original series.
Correct.
And that's all I'm saying. That's it.
Correct.
My argument is over with.
Yeah. The schism point of that is however you want to determine it. Now, with that, the other facet to it is the way that they actually ended up ending it. It looks like the entire series can be retconned away as being a holo novel representation of what happened.
Yep.
Okay.
That made it even worse, if you ask me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying it was a smart choice. I'm just saying it's what they did.
Yeah. True.
But with that change in the technological view and appearance and development that is shown in Enterprise, Discovery and Picard follow down that path where they're actually in that alternate timeline, not part of the Prime universe.
I thought Picard was quite a long time afterwards. It seemed to be pretty consistent, but maybe I missed something.
But if you actually look what was put on screen, you have a lot of elements in Picard that are taken directly from Discovery.
Oh.
Look at the shuttlecraft that are used as taxis. Look at the way the warp travel is visually shown. You have glutton of visual component tie-ins between Picard and Discovery.
Right, but
so for some visual component tie-ins are also, just advancements in technology. The way I'm looking at it, but I want to see story that actually indicates that they're in the alternate timeline.
And their struggle with time and AI might be that connection.
Yep.
What the Jacques Vache,
yeah,
right? The Tal Shiar on steroids.
Yeah.
That might have, it bothered me so much, I actually found an article about it. There might be a connection between that and what Discovery is dealing with control. Like, so, because why do they have this hatred for AI? Why do they have this hatred for androids? Where did that come from?
Oh, yeah,
There's got to be a time travel connection there.
Not necessarily.
That might be explained. I don't know. I'm just saying, because it cannot be coincidence.
But my understanding is that this is something from 100,000 years ago where this happened with other species. And it's just been passed down through, I guess, archaeological discovery.
Yes. Yeah, that's how time travel works.
Time travel is not needed for that.
No, but something... The two theories proposed in the article were that it is possible that there is a time travel connection because control could go anywhere and at any time, right? That's one. Two, Romulan civilization could have had its own AI catastrophe, separate and apart from what's going on, to have brought them to this conclusion the same way that was about to happen in Discovery's universe. And the same way it kind of happened in Battlestar Galactica. Just put that out there. Everybody's having their own AI catastrophe.
Well, that's a good point.
Battlestar Galactica, they used so much weird terminology in that show. It was a little hard to follow the dialogue. Oh boy.
So say we all.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I don't remember any strange terminology that I remember.
Really? Oh, we just frack it all then.
They talk parsecs all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just science fiction talk, like the cussing, that we got that from Farscape back in the 90s, frack and friggle
Farscape.
and they had all kinds of cuss words. Yeah, I get that though. I get you. Now that you put it, I get you. I'm sorry. Yeah, I get you. Carry on. One of the things though, I got to say about Jared, I'm not trying to be a jerk about Enterprise. There are things I dislike about Enterprise that I'm very passionate about. Has nothing to do with you, brother. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I
Darth Dawkins got my dander up earlier, and I'm ready to argue with somebody now.
No, and so that's where you have that, and then of course you have the admitted Hobus event creating the schism that is the Kelvin timeline, and then one of the so here's one of the things that tie in that actually put Enterprise as its schism point being that time travel event in First Contact, the Borg on Antarctica, or in the Arctic, one of the two.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And then you actually, and having that access to Borg technology at that point would also explain the technological differences that we get on screen, with Discovery being a follow-on of that event.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I could see that. But, there were things they did whenever I was watching Enterprise about that Borg episode. They were very careful to try to, at that point in the show, it appeared, kind of make it to where everything stayed in a certain order. Mm-hmm. To me, it wasn't until the Xindi appeared that they really started taking this time thing, and they're just like, you know what, we're going to shat on everything about Star Trek and go this other way. And I didn't think they needed to do that. They could have done the Romulan War instead of the Xindi. That was my thing. They could have stayed in there. Plenty of time.
I do think of the concept of the Borg Queen does poison the whole idea of the Borg being a collective, and that is a major flaw in writing. Yes,
that was introduced in the movie. Yes.
I think it was introduced in Voyager. It might have been in the movie too. I'm not sure which one.
It was around the same time. They were developed at the same time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I remember watching the movie going, well, who's this chick? Yeah. What? Where'd she come from? I thought resistance was feudal. We're all one. We're not all one anymore. Okay, fine. We have a queen.
And I suspect if Roddenberry was alive and still involved, he would not have allowed that.
Yeah, that did feel a little outside the. Like, okay, we're doing this to compete with Star Wars and get fans. Okay, I get it.
The egocentric nature of Hollywood writers, I guess, seeping in.
Well, I did appreciate that it gave us a good strong anti-character in a female. I thought
think
that
the
was
Borg
good.
as a whole was quite a good example of that. Look at the coronavirus now. There's no one master behind it all. It's just it's like the Borg almost.
I
the
get
way
you.
It spreads.
I get that. I appreciate
I
it.
do feel that science fiction fans do have a leg up on the pandemic. We're all sitting at home going, yeah, we saw this. We've seen this. Why didn't everybody see this coming?
We saw this coming.
we just need to get Commander Data to get in there and send the shutdown command.
Yeah. Haven't you people seen the movie?
The sleep command, yeah.
The sleep command, that's right.
Yes. And then that's how we get the artifact, yes?
Yes,
in Discovery.
Yeah, I need to see.
Not Discovery, in Picard.
Yeah, Picard, yeah. No, that's an interesting development, actually.
It is. And I'm sorry. I don't want to ruin anything for Chris.
No, you're good. You're good. By the time we see it, my weed brain will have just shoveled all that out. So don't worry.
I guess this is one of the hazards of running a science fiction show.
That's true. That's true. Well, some of these things are long, brother. It takes a long time to get through one of these episodes or a series.
Yes.
That's 22 episodes, 45 minutes an episode. It takes a day or three to get through all that. And then I got to go through.
It's a commitment.
That's right. So we're really craving getting through Enterprise because I want to see Discovery again. Just like with Enterprise, I'm going through Enterprise. I've shat on Enterprise this whole episode. But I'm going through it with a kind of a more open mind this time, trying to be better. I want to enjoy it more as we get into season 3 and 4 because I remember it. I've seen it before. I know it picks up a little bit. I want to enjoy it. There were things I didn't like about Discovery. I loved Michael Burnham's character. I thought it was really cool what they did with her. I didn't like that they brought on this really cool Asian lady and then she's gone. I hear they'll bring her back. I heard that. That's cool. I didn't care for the spore drive. I thought that for my reasons that we already talked about. Where is it again? We never hear it about again. It's never in none of the Star Treks. I don't know. But the visuals were just awesome. But all that stuff, I'll get through and it'll be okay. I want to get to Enterprise. Discovery. I've seen the parts of Discovery that I didn't care for, and now I have accepted them. Let me watch the rest of the show and enjoy it,
and then I want to get to down.
Yes. Well, there's things, it's just like the Klingons. Everybody's pissed off about the Klingons. The Klingons look like Mongolians during the Next Generation, or the original series. And then before the Next Generation, we see the movies and they look like they got something retarded on their heads with these little things that go up the thing during the, and then they changed.
Why do the Klingons keep changing?
Right.
That was explained. Originally it was explained as evolutionary progression, but the way they present them in Discovery, it's like they're mentally retarded. It's like, what the heck? What's going on?
Again, I don't know. I got to go watch. My understanding is in second season they changed it.
They should have made a whole new species with that one instead of calling them Klingons. It was a joke.
Yeah. Well, part of it is they wanted to utilize the 4 Years' War with the Klingons as part of their the backdrop for what was going on in the series. Not that they were going to cover the war, but it was the backdrop of what else was going on. And that was actually part of why CBS went against the Axanar project as hard as they did. Because at the time in development, Axanar was getting more of a fan support than CBS was.
Have you heard of Axanar, Miss Leanne? It's a fan-made show. They even had like big stars in it, didn't it? But it was fan-made, am I right?
Yes, it is a fan production that was all crowdsourced funding with unpaid actors. The actors who are actual professional actors who have had ties to Star Trek in the past, they volunteered their time to be a part of it because that's what they recognized as being Trek of that time period.
So how do you spell that?
Axanar, ANAR.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at that. Sounds interesting.
You might be able to find it, I don't know, YouTube or
I
on
had
the
heard
website.
of that, but I didn't know the name.
Yeah, there's a long lead up video that they did that is called Prelude to Axanar, which set up what they were going in for, and that had so much more fan support of your older generation and at that time current generation Star Trek fans compared to what CBS was starting to talk about and put out as what became Star Trek Discovery. And there was actually a whole legal battle about it because
Wow.
it forced CBS to do something to keep their market share of the visuals and interest in Star Trek, because it was dwindling. It was getting pulled away because of the stark difference between the two. And CBS went the legal route, which ended up resulting in a whole slew of tightening of restrictions for fan-produced content connected to Star Trek. And it all but killed other fan-produced series that had actually been going on for years at that point, like Star Trek Renegades. They had to change their force.
Do you hear me, CBS? Boo to you. Bad call.
Yeah,
they heard.
Oh no! They heard. They chose not to listen.
Hey, I'm curious. Do you put clips of any Star Trek stuff on your show, Jared?
When we're going over it, we generally use screenshots when we're going over specific stuff. Like when we do our movie and episode reviews, we'll do screenshots from the show itself. We have tried to do clips in the past and everything of even no audio and changing the play rate. And CBS has actually struck a couple of my videos and blocked them globally because of it. I'm actually currently dealing in the background of getting them to realize, no, what I was doing was fair use. You cannot censor it in that way.
That's why I was asking.
CBS does not give a shit about that stuff at this point. No, not at all. Their pocketbook has been hurt.
CBS, listen to me. Boo on you again. Bad call. Smarten up.
Yeah, so if you're going to be doing content review of it, my recommendation, if you are doing any CBS or Paramount IP, do not use video clips. If you can avoid it, use still images instead.
Good advice. Okay. Well, I asked because at one point I was going to create a second channel and do sci-fi reviews because I love me some sci-fi and I could do some sci-fi reviews, but without being able to do any of the Star Trek properties or any of the CBS properties, or without being able to put any video clips or anything like that, because I've heard that they will clamp down very hard, very fast on you. So that's why I was asking. Thank you for that.
Chris, try asking them for permission first. Send them a letter, let them know what you want to do, and ask them for permission.
Yeah, I got no time for that before every episode. You know what I mean?
No.
Before I'm going to go review.
No. What I'm suggesting, send them a letter, tell them you want to do these reviews, you'd like to review these shows, and ask if it's okay, like how much of the clips you can show, and see what they write back. The worst they can do is say no. If they give you permission, you're good.
Or not say anything. Yeah. That's true. If they give you permission, that'd be great. I totally would be. But actually, they release the material.
Jared is right. There is fair use.
See, there's fair use, but they don't seem to care about that. And YouTube is not the America. It is not a. It's not a democracy. There's no rights here. We have no rights. No. We are here at their leisure, so they can kick us or choose. My bad. I'm sorry.
And you only have, again, just my experience. You only have the rights you can afford to pursue. So the law can be on your side, but if you don't have, CBS with better means and legal teams can do what they want.
That's true. But Randolph, I mean, it doesn't hurt to try and ask. Maybe they'll let you, maybe they won't.
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's true.
I know plenty of people who sent in a letter and got something back, and sometimes they'll say stuff like, well, you can only display up to 15 seconds and you need to notify us when you post it. Okay, great, whatever. And they got permission.
That would be wonderful. Good. Yeah. And there are things like they're set. in my scripted videos, I learned that, if you're going to do certain things like NIV, the NIV Bible, to read out of the NIV Bible, you really need to put the copyright and all that in your channel description, and they won't mess with you. So there may be ways. I see these other channels who do sci-fi content. How do they get those clips in there? Star Wars. How do they get those clips in there without Disney coming down on them? How do we do that? I'd like to know. It just sounds like a lot of fun, especially for Sci-Fi Saturday. I was going to have an entire different background, really, to be honest, and I'm blushing. I was going to have it for Miss Leighann. I was going to have a completely different sci-fi background. I think she's locked up again. She locked up again. I was going to have a completely different sci-fi background, all Star Trek-y related just for her. But I was worried if I did that, I would get dinged by the copyright stuff. So it's good to know.
Well, it all depends on what you're going to use for it and how it's presented. And the biggest thing is being transformative. I've noticed that they don't really go after you for like set dressing. Because if you look at mine, I have the Elcars overlay going on.
That's what I was going to ask, yeah.
And when you look at the most recent episode from last week where we were talking about Star Trek 6, I actually have, when we're doing the sharing and viewing of the screenshots from the movie that we were talking about, yay, I use a view of the Enterprise A, that vintage view screen border within that as the presentation of the images. That type of stuff, they don't go after you on. What they go after you on is, like, on when we reviewed Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, the initial bit, because a lot of the screenshots had gotten corrupted, we'd gone to showing clips of the movie itself, no audio, as we're talking over it, talking about it, and evaluating it. And Paramount CBS has said, no, we're blocking that globally, despite the fact that it was, by the book, fair use because it was transformative. It was not a replacement for the original content itself. We were providing critique and review of what was being shown.
Yeah.
So
do you put it full screen, or do you put it like minimum in a smaller screen on your deal? Do you do that?
No, it is trimmed down in the view with every amongst everything else. So again, there is not a way to take any bit of it and replace the original with it, which is part of the contention.
Because I would love to do me some Star Trek reviews. I mean, we're going through I could do a review of each episode after we watched it as we went through all these series. That would be awesome, but I can't.
Yeah. I'd like to see that.
I kind of want to do that with Voyager when I start the rewatch, because I don't remember having great feelings about it, but I'm willing to watch it again because I'm getting more out of my DS9 second watching than I did the first time around, and maybe that'll come to me on Voyager as well. I just remember just getting so angry mid-series.
Well, DS9 has aged exceptionally well, and it actually, when you look at the completed series in the aggregate, I'm setting TOS aside because they didn't have a chance to really do a final episode. They literally just got lopped off at the knees. Yeah. But when you look at the rest of the series that have had a chance to complete and finish and have a proper ending, DS9's series ending was the most complete and proper ending that Star Trek has done.
Yeah, you're going to need to say that again when Chris comes back, because he does not like the end. I haven't seen the end. So
as someone
he doesn't like it.
As someone who is former military and recognizing that the changes that take place, that is a quintessential ending of an era, the way they handled it on DS9.
Yeah, in a way, the characters' familiarity seemed to be an over-familiarity. They got along a bit too familiar with each other, but I guess that kind of goes par for the course in extreme situations in war anyway.
Yeah.
I'm back. And I heard that.
Did you hear? You did hear. Okay.
Okay, so
I'll stuck up for you.
I think what he said was literally correct. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's the most. It's a very. There's a lot of closure. They explain everything. They wrap up everything really nicely. They do a really good job of wrapping it up. My complaint is it's boring.
Oh.
They do the first season is the end of the action, all the action that the whole show is built up to. That there's a two-parter. The last episode, the first part of that last episode is them dealing with that business, this action, excitement, yay. The second part is them just kind of panning along. This guy, look at this. This is Odo. This is Quark with music. Here's Cisco with music. I didn't find it very interesting, but like you said,
agree.
it was very well wrapped up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
think
wrapped
that
up the
last
show
episode
very
wasn't
well.
necessary. Yeah.
And in general, I think I told you this before, Chris. I have a hard time with season or series finales.
Yeah, I understand.
Like, yeah, I haven't seen MASH. It took me a really long time to watch the end of Battlestar Galactica. And then I saw the end of it, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Really?"
I appreciate Voyager for the best episode, the best ending. I feel the most exciting, the best. Wow, that was just awesome. Was Voyager, but I mean, I would agree with anybody who said that they need. I'm sorry.
That last episode of DS9 that you talked about, I think. When I was seeing that, it seems like a soupy soap opera moment, and I was expecting that there was going to be somebody who didn't realize the war was over and still fight, and they'd still have to deal with a little bit of the aftermath there. They didn't touch that at all.
They did.
Wow.
Well, keep in mind, the way DS9 was wrapping up that closure point, they're harping on the main characters there. You have Cisco's gone, and what does everyone else do as a result? Like, where are the chips falling after that?
Yeah.
And that's what you end up getting, because at the end of an era like that, you have, from the military standpoint, you have a lot of transfers. You have a lot of people going off to new postings or straight up retiring.
No.
Well, no, all these things, and don't worry. Don't worry about that. Those aren't, because she hasn't seen it, right? So that's why we don't want to spoil it for her. But like, I get it. I do get it. It does wrap up. It's like you said. I totally agree. It just wraps up everything nicely. It was just boring. It's boring. That's all I was saying.
Yeah.
My point was it was done well. Voyager did a very extremely poor job of wrapping it up. Boom, they're home. That's it. That's all you know.
Yeah,
what happened to the Maquis? What happened to the Doctor? What happened to 7 of 9? How did all these people get welcomed by the community? You don't know nothing. All you see is a bunch of ships flying away. The end sucks as far as that goes. But if you're into that, I mean, it's great, but there's no explanation. Deep Space Nine had lots of explanation.
I thought you liked the end of Voyager.
I do. I love it. That's what I'm saying. I love it. It's exciting. Boom. It's all boom. Whoa. It's wonderful. But there's no explanation. They don't tell you anything about what happened after they get home. You don't see any closure. Did Janeway become an admiral? Did she retire? Did the Doctor ever find a name for himself? Did anything happen? There was no. As soon as they're flying back to Earth, they've made it. They're home. You don't see nothing after that. There's nothing. There's no explanation. Beautiful, no explanation. Deep Space Nine has too much explanation, makes it boring. That's my opinion.
Wow. Okay. And then how do you feel about the ending of Next Gen?
Next Gen was, it was kind of okay. Next Gen was episodic. It did the same thing every episode, and it ended kind of that way. It kind of brought some things back. They did, like he said, they didn't really end it. They chopped it, and then they made a movie-esque kind of thing with Generations. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, no, Generations was after, because they had the 3. Maybe it was called Generations. Anyway, so they had the 3. I thought that was okay.
Script was Generations.
Yeah, and it kind of wrapped it up. It had Q bringing back Q to wrap up the end and all that. It was okay. It was okay.
Q was another brilliant character, another brilliant creation of Gene Roddenberry. I forgot to mention. One thing I found peculiar about the Star Trek movies was Commander Data saying "lock and load." It's a phaser.
Yeah. That's true. But then he also had those other times whenever it was, life forms. Life forms. Do y'all remember that?
Little life forms.
Where are you? I love that one, And then whenever he's going, oh, shit. My mom, I thought, my mom, you know how it is when you're watching stuff like that with my mom. My mom made me I was 5 and she made me the little gold uniform for Kirk. And she wasn't into the Next Generation. And I was just afraid when Data did that she was going to just hate it. She loved it. She loved that. Made her love him even more. I just love the guy.
Wow.
Data was wonderful.
Data was a fantastic character.
I love Data. You know what I realized? Y'all haven't even addressed or acknowledged the Star Trek reboot, the movies.
What reboot?
Chris Pine. Oh wow, it's like that. Okay, never mind.
So here's I'll try to be brief on this.
Okay.
I am very critical of Trek and can be lenient even after my criticism.
Okay.
The Kelvin timeline gets bonus points over Picard and Discovery, in my view, for one reason. They were honest about what it was from day one. When they said it was a reboot, when they said it was going to be a different timeline, when they said it was going to be a deviation from what you had known before, the names are the same, but don't expect the same type of characters. Right. They said that from day one.
I would argue they did that.
Was amazing.
Yeah, I would argue they did that because of what happened with Enterprise. Because the backlash from all that, the very problems I'm having with Enterprise, we knew it was going to be the same thing with this new 2009 iteration. And by laying those cards out up at the front, that made it easier for people like me. Now we're used to it.
Yeah,
with Enterprise, it wasn't.
I didn't get that email. And so I went to the movie and like, what the hell is red matter? What? Right. I was raging for days, and then people were like, "Hey, sweetie, different timeline,
right.
different."
Red matter sounds like something out of Minecraft.
Right. And you know they had to do that. They had to create a new timeline because all the interesting stories that were in the real timeline, the prime timeline, they had all been done. There was nothing interesting, possibly, that they could have possibly made a movie out of instead of trashing the timeline. That's how I felt about Enterprise too, right?
I don't know. I'm kind of feeling, Randolph's suggestion for, fixing the timeline.
Yeah, let's fix this shit. Then we just delete Enterprise. Is that because I think I was not right exactly. I think Jared corrected me on the Enterprise. They actually were a different timeline before. I thought it happened. Yeah,
I did too.
So but the whole show is out of timeline. We could just wipe that shit off.
Listen, I'm wiping them out of my mind just because they had music and they were singing in the opening, and I'm like, that already told me this is not real Star Trek.
So out of place and just
that is the worst song.
It's the worst.
There's the worst music. Like for me, the best music, the most majestic is DS9.
DS9's got some good tunes. Yeah, my wife every time as we're going through the show, if I forget to skip the intro, she starts yelling at me. I don't need to hear this song. I'm like, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Yeah, she's gonna get me after the show. Remember that
1
breakfast
minute,
I was
21 seconds.
What's that?
I skipped it every time.
Oh, really? Yeah.
1-1.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was, Sandy the Same mentions the Green Lady in one of the episodes of the movie. Do you guys remember in the original series, they had the, what are they called? Orion Slave Girl?
The Orion Slave Girl.
The Orion Slave Girl. So they
Almost everybody remembers. That green woman is as memorable as the three-breasted woman in Total Recall.
Yes.
Yep.
When they did the remake of that, the first question that came up from the audience is there going to be another woman with three breasts? It's like, what about the movie?
Yeah. And for me, totally different. What caught my eye was the receptionist who could change her fingernail color by just tapping it with a pen. That's what caught my eye.
Element, yeah.
Technological stuff is cool.
I'm just saying, the three breasts, not so much. Because I'm like, that's got to be an uncomfortable bra. Not even thinking about it. But that fingernail thing.
Right. Have you guys seen Paul?
Perspective.
The movie Paul. They got that cartoon they're carrying around with them, the comic book, and it's got this woman with three breasts. And of course, she's wearing a top on it, but it's got three breasts. This one guy goes, "Wow, she's got 3 tits. That's hot." And this other guy goes, "Wow, what if she had 4 tits?" And they're like, "You're sick. What the hell's wrong with you?" Then it becomes udders. How do we talk on alien tits?
That is ridiculous.
Leighann, so Julie LaVoy says, Leighann Lord, yes, the opening song for Enterprise was the worst. It's jarring, horrible, and you'd expect to see a big-ass truck rolling through it. Where's my trucker's hat? It's been a long road.
It's been a long road. No, it hasn't. It hasn't been a road at all. We're not going down this road.
You know what? That theme song...
Leighann, although you're singing it better than they did, please don't.
No, it's terrible. It's
I have a
that is
question.
the stuff of nightmares.
You know what?
Chris,
If they did
I have
it,
a quick question for Julie. Does her husband find it easier to tolerate that song while he's drunk?
Julie the voice. You know, I don't know. I'm sure she heard you. She might answer. Well, she'll let us know. Yeah.
but
With
so
us-
that song, if they were to do a series about the J-type transports that are shown in Enterprise and use that song as the theme song of that, that would be so much more fitting.
Maybe, yeah. A boomer transport or something where there's
Yeah.
yeah. I just know it, like she said, it was jarring. That they did a lot of
It is the reason I did not watch it in real time.
yeah.
I was ready. I sat down. I was so happy. I'm like, yay, more Star Trek. And then the singing started. I'm like, click, no.
What
no.
the hell?
It took me years to come back. Years.
The melody is depressing. The voice is depressing. I didn't even care what the lyrics had to say.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was the thing. My memory says, and we know where my memory's been. You don't go there. But my memory tells me that between the first season and the second season, they changed the song a little bit, added more rhythm or different, like a more guitar.
Second and third.
Is it second and third?
Yeah.
And people hated the difference. Not only do we hate that there's words there at all, but later on, different nerds will be fighting that the words before were good. They don't like the words now. That these people who made this show could do nothing right.
They didn't change the words. They changed the melody, the speed, and the something. It's like they went from country to disco, like some weird jarring thing.
Yes.
And I was like, y'all, this is not making it better.
Let's put this: in Enterprise, the best intro that they had was the Mirror Universe intro.
You know, I'd have to watch that. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to watch that.
Corporate creativity gets it right for a change.
Been a day or three since I've seen that. Okay, I'll have to watch. Because I'm with everybody else. I think we have a uniform consensus that words in Star Trek openings was unfortunate. You know, the
music,
music,
the singing.
No lyrics.
The lyrics.
Words,
yes, I can't.
Well, you know, originally it was
Space,
final frontier. You know, Kirk.
It's got to be epic sounding music.
Yes,
that's what it has to.
Which DS9 every time, like I'm when I watch it here, I could easily fast forward past it. Yep. I don't, because it has a majesty.
It does, and you know what? It changes every season a little bit. And that was one of the ones where me and the wife would watch it. The new version every season. We also did it with Babylon 5. We don't like listening to watching the intro every time, but every season you watch the whole intro because it's going to be different.
Yes, it's a little something different.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah,
I loved the music from Battlestar Galactica. That's Bear McCreary, and so much so I downloaded the soundtracks.
Me too,
because they're just so. It's got that Irish, that Scottish, that drum. It's like, I want to fight somebody now. What are we doing? I'm gonna punch a Cylon.
Oh, and they get those drums going, pump. Yeah, yep.
Yes,
it kind of reminds me of. It reminds me a little bit of Wonder Woman music, the new movie music from the Wonder Woman. Dun, 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 dun. You know, it just kind of does certain things.
That was well done series. Yep. That movie was good. That was a good movie. Yeah.
It was a good movie.
We just watched that. Battlestar Galactica. You've never Sandy the Sane. You've never seen Battlestar Galactica. You talking the old Battlestar Galactica or the new Battlestar Galactica?
No, the music from the new.
No, yes, you're talking about that.
Though I will say there was a time in my life when I thought if I get married, I want to walk down the aisle to the original orchestral version of Battlestar Galactica original series. And my mom was like, what? No, we're not doing that.
She's like, hell no.
No, yeah. She was like, hell. This is a church lady. She was like, oh, hell no. We're not doing that.
Yep. You know, for those of you who don't know, the original Baltar, the actor who played Baltar from the original Battlestar Galactica, also played a Klingon on the original Star Trek, and then went on to play that same Klingon in DS9. So Baltar from the original show is on Klingon as Koloth, not Koloth.
That's him?
Yeah, Kor. It's Kor. It's the drunk one, the one who's drunk. Kor. Yeah, that's him. Yeah. I know, right? It's like Cisco. Cisco is Hawk. Blew my mind.
Oh, I love it. I love when they do stuff like that.
Yep. And that they brought him back.
And the great thing with that is he played Kor in TOS and DS9.
Yes, that's right. That's where she knows it. She just got finished watching those episodes with him, and now that's the same guy from the original Battlestar Galactica. The guy who sold us out.
Now I want to rewatch that DS9 episode and be like, oh,
yeah,
that guy.
It's sad. I think, of course, all those Klingons are dead now, I believe. Oh, I don't know if you remember the original series. In the original series, they came across this guy, the Duke of something, and he was played by, Trelane.
You're talking about Trelane?
Yes. He was played by this actor. I don't remember his name. He also went on to play a Klingon in Star Trek, the original series, and he played Koloth, or the other one. Because one of them was played by Ansara. But yeah, so these guys go way back. What wonderful, wonderful stuff. Squire of Gothos, exactly right. The Squire of Gothos, and I can't remember the actor's name, but oh yeah, you remember in the DS9 there was one Klingon. It was actually in Odo's office. Odo's sitting there in his office. He turns away and he looks back, and there's a Klingon standing there, Klingon Dahar Master, and he says, "Who are you?" And that was the same guy who played the Squire of Gothos back in the original.
That would be one William Campbell.
William Campbell. That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
I believe they're all dead now.
Guys,
all three of them.
y'all would be killing this in a Jeopardy category. Alex Trebek would not know how to handle y'all.
True. Well, you know what, guys? You guys have been wonderful. We've done a couple hours here on the show now.
Yeah, no, I got to get ready to go. I got another thing at 4. But
you got to go do that thing.
This was delightfully nerdy. This is exactly everything I signed up for. Not only did I get to be nerdy, I got to learn stuff.
Right. And you got to watch me yell at Darth Dawkins, too.
Yes. Unforgettable.
Yep. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Leighann, again for coming back. I'm gonna keep hounding you. As long as you keep coming back, I'll keep having you.
It was such a pleasure to meet you.
Okay, to quote Captain Pike, from Discovery, what about the look on my face has told you I've changed my mind about the mission?
There you go. I love that. I gotta see that. Randolph,
it was a pleasure to meet you. I'm very interested that you're involved in the Writers Guild. That's something that would like to hear more about that at some point.
Oh no, that was a lifetime ago. I wrote on the Chris Rock Show for like a quick minute, and that got me in. Got me into the Writers Guild, and so I'm in, but I'm like one of those like defunct members because I haven't written for a show since.
Did you meet Chris Rock?
Yeah, I know Chris.
Oh wow! So I've heard good things about him. Is he a real fun guy off stage too?
No,
he's pretty serious.
Well, okay. Let me clarify.
I like him, by the way. I think he's great. Yeah.
No, I like him as well. Let me clarify. There's Chris's onstage persona, his performance. He's very larger than life. Offstage, he reminds me a bit of Gilbert Gottfried. You wouldn't know they were in the room. They're quiet, unassuming. Not Gilbert Gottfried. Bobcat Goldthwait. Like you wouldn't
Gilbert
know.
Gottfried. We got to hear more about this.
Well, yeah. Gilbert's another thing. But yeah, Bobcat. Bobcat is one of these folks. If you remember old school comedy, this dude was screaming on stage, larger than life. And he whenever I see him, he always sees me before I see him. He'll kind of just appear, like at my elbow. Hi, Leighann. Like, oh my God. But so there again, to go to Chris, very nice, but very, very quiet, whatever, because I remember it, and he's famous. People see him and they and he's like
mm-hmm.
It's a different life. But yes, very funny, good dude.
I have a quote I'm just trying to find of him here. I'm going to read it to you. Here it is. It says, "If you're a Black Christian, you have a real short memory."
Mm-hmm. True.
I really like him.
That is succinct and to the point. It is the worst case of Stockholm syndrome I have ever seen.
He's eloquent, and he seems to be a clear thinker, and he is just so entertaining. So, please tell him he's got a fan in Canada. I'm just.
I'm sure he knows. He knows. But you guys, thank you. This has been a wonderful day. Chris will connect during the week, and yes, you don't have to blackmail me. Yes, I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Do you want to tell us before we go out? Randolph made a great suggestion before I let everybody go. Do you want to tell us anything about what you got coming up? Show your stuff. before? What do you got going on you want people to see?
Well, I would ask people if you can. I'm trying to build my YouTube presence. So if you're not already subscribed and following me, please do, because I do put up videos and whatnot. And yesterday I dropped my latest working from home comedy club video. And I try to do those once a week, whether I'm doing it in my own home or whether someone has invited me to be on their Zoom comedy show, because that's what we're doing now.
Yep.
So I definitely invite people to come and enjoy that. And I'm always posting new clips or classic clips of comedy as well as my new stuff. So that's how you find me here on YouTube, Leighann Lord Comedy. And if you want access or want to see all the stuff I'm doing, my website is veryfunnylady.com.
Wonderful. And she's got a Facebook page, Leighann Lord Comedy on Facebook.
It's also Leighann Lord Comedy. Yes. It matches my YouTube.
That's right. So if you'll follow her on that and on YouTube, that'd be wonderful. She's very funny. Wonderful. Randolph, you got any bywords you want to say? Any last words?
Leighann, just check the private chat. I sent you a note. I'm Randolf Richardson. I'm the founding president of the Canadian Atheists. You can find out more about us at www.canadianatheists.ca. And if you want to reach me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is Randolph828. That's RANDOLF828. I really enjoyed this conversation today. This was great talking with other people who know so much more about Star Trek than I do. I learned a lot as well. And it was an absolute pleasure to talk with you again, Chris, and to meet you, Leighann, and King Jared. So I've met a lord and a king here today. This is fantastic.
And a duck.
Wow, you're the organizer, man. You're the glue that puts it all together. I'll call you the royal glue. How's
I'm the duck. Yeah, I'm the duck. So Jared,
no horsing around.
No horsing around. Just ducking around. Jared, thank you for joining us today. You want to let everybody know how they can find you?
Oh, it's a pleasure. I can be found a couple of places. I'm AT2 Productions here on YouTube. That is where the majority of my stuff goes on, where Friday evenings we do a veterans only panel where we talk about anything and everything from politics and things we find funny to sci-fi to everything in between. And then, as mentioned, every other Saturday. So last Saturday was the previous episode of the Canar with Damar series, where we talk sci-fi, primarily Star Trek, but we also do touch on other IPs as well. In addition to that, on my Discord server, which is linked all over my channel as well, Tuesday evenings, 6:30 Eastern, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have group viewing parties that take place. Where Tuesday we are right now we are watching The Mandalorian. Wednesdays we are picking random older movies that still have good writing that really couldn't be made or shown today. Going on. And then Thursday we are currently going through The Next Generation. Actually group watching and then talking about the show and anything else that happens after watching the episodes together through that platform. So we got a lot of nerdy type of stuff going on over there.
Yes, wonderful. Well, thank you. And for all of you who are watching, don't forget to subscribe to their channels. I have the links in the description below. Guys, I am going to go run the D&D show. I'm just a bad host. I've got to go put that together for them. So y'all have a great day. Thank you to everybody in the chat. And for those of you interested in watching DVD, we'll have D&D here in just a few minutes. So.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.
Take care, all.
Bye.